Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's session of Kumi Now. As people are continuing to join, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're joining us from. It's always good to see our community from across the world who's here to engage in education and activism for Palestine. My name is Lily. I see many familiar faces on here today. Our topic today is Palestine refugees. Unfortunately, we do not have a guest speaker who will be joining us today simply due to the closure of many of our partner organizations here in Jerusalem who are on vacation observing Eid al-Adha. So that being said, our meeting today, unfortunately or fortunately, will look a little bit different from recent weeks. We're going to focus on our actions of the week and followed by a time of sharing updates on actions that you all may have been engaged with in your communities. So that means our session today will likely not take the full hour, but we still think that it's important to gather and complete our actions, even if we aren't able to hear from a guest speaker to provide these updates. So before we start, I'd like to remind you that this session is being recorded and will be shared after the event. Please make sure your mic is off and take this into consideration when you have the opportunity to speak and share later during the webinar. So although we don't have a guest today to speak and provide current updates on the situation with Palestine refugees, which obviously has changed and evolved so much since October 7th, I do want to just point you all to a few resources that you can do on your own time to continue to learn and be educated about this issue. So firstly is a previous Kumi Now entry that we have on our website on this topic if you wish to learn more and see the previous work that we've done on this issue and the resources that you can access there as well as a link to the UNRWA homepage, the United Nations Refugee and Works Agency homepage, where you can explore more about the essential services this UN agency provides to Palestine refugees. So if Philippa is able to share these in the chat, I'll go ahead and make sure those are shared for your reference just as I speak about them. And just in summary, at Kumi Now, our position on Palestine refugees and the reason that we include it in our calendar of topics that we address each year is that our position continues to be one of upholding international law and the UN General Assembly Resolution 194, which calls for the right of return and compensation for all Palestine refugees. And this is what we continue to advocate for in our letter writing and our calling and our education around this issue. So after just with that brief overview, unfortunately, I'm not an expert, so can't do much to take questions or address our issue of the week. So we are just going to go ahead and move straight into our time of action as we come together and gather today. So all of our information on actions as usual can be found in our latest Sabeel newsletter and Kumi newsletter, or go to kuminow.com/action. And Philippa will be sharing the links to these in the chat as I go through them. So firstly, our new action for this week is a global invitation to an action which will be taking place on June 25th. Our friends at the Bisan Center for Research and Development have initiated a global call to action from Palestinian civil society organizations and unions entitled Join the Global Day of Action for a Ceasefire in Gaza. So I'm going to share my screen to go through their call to action. Just give me one moment. Okay, so we're now looking at the website and the homepage of Bisan Center for Research and Development. And if you've been with us in our Kumi community for a while, you may remember that earlier this year, one of our actions for a while was sharing a short 10-minute documentary that Bisan had created on some of the medical human rights violations that have been taking place in Gaza since the 7th of October. So we are very happy to continue to amplify the work of BSAN Center in promoting their call for a global day of action for a ceasefire. So I'll just go through this quickly, and the link to this page is also going to be in the chat, and it's in our newsletter for your access during or after this session. So their call is: we, Palestinian civil society and unions, call upon all people of conscience to stand with us in demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The ongoing Israeli genocidal campaign has brought immense suffering and devastation to our people, and it is time for the world to unite in solidarity to end this humanitarian crisis. Join us in a global day of action on June 25th. And there are a few different items that they detail in what this global day of action will mean. Firstly, they're calling on everyone to leave work at 12 noon. We urge workers, students, and professionals from all walks of life to leave their workplaces and schools at 12 noon local time. This collective pause will send a powerful message that the global community will not stand idly by while Gaza burns. And they suggest that using the rest of this time can be to participate in activities and demonstrations across cities and towns worldwide to call for peaceful demonstrations, vigils, and activities to raise awareness and demand actions. And some ways they outline that you can participate are to join or organize a demonstration, hold a vigil, spread the word using the hashtags that have been circulating for months now, to call and contact your leaders. And they're continuing their call to the international community, governments, organizations, and civil society groups to demand an immediate ceasefire, provide humanitarian aid, call for an arms embargo. And through our solidarity and action coming together in this global day of action, we can amplify our voices and show that the world demands an end to the bloodshed. Our solidarity can make a difference, and together we can push for a future where peace and justice prevail. So in order to amplify and carry out this action from our friends at BSAN Center, our actions as a Kumi community are firstly to add this to our calendar. So I would encourage everyone to pull up your calendar, whether it's something that you have virtually or if it's a written agenda that you use, and mark the date on June 25th to join in this strike if you're able, or to set this day aside for an intentional day of sharing and action for Gaza and for Palestine. So that's our first action within this call. And secondly, we need to spread the word about this in order for it to truly become a global day of action. Sabeel and Kumi will just be one civil society organization that is helping to amplify this call. But if we each can share this with 1 to 3 other people and continue to ask and spread for this call, it truly can become a global day of action. So those are our 2 items within this call. Firstly, to put June 25th on your own calendar, and then think of and invite and share with a few others within your networks and communities that can also put June 25th on their calendar. So I will stop sharing my screen at this time and refer you to the chat where the link to these description can be found. And then we will move on to our next action after I give you all just a brief moment to do those 2 things. So write in your calendar and share this link. Okay, so that's our first action, which is a global action. We're now going to move into a few regional actions for today. The first, which is for our friends in the UK, for an upcoming important action on July 11th, which I will now invite Philippa to present and explain. And I see David in the chat has said that he doesn't see the link, so I will reshare the BSAN Center call action link and invite Philippa to hop on and explain the UK action at this time.
Hi everybody. So the UK action is a boycott of Barclays Bank, which is being led by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. So Barclays has been bankrolling Israel's genocidal onslaught on Palestinians through its financial ties with arms companies that sell weapons to Israel. According to the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, their researchers found that Barclays now invests over £2 billion in and provides financial services worth £6.1 billion to companies arming Israel. So the Palestine Solidarity Campaign is calling on all concerned people to boycott all Barclays services until the bank ends its complicity in Israel's attacks on Palestinians. So this action involves this action involves everybody who still has a Barclays account to pledge to close the account on Thursday, the 11th of July, 2024, in a mass account closure day. So in the chat, hopefully we'll be able to share the link to the Palestine campaign website where you can find further information on how exactly you can go about closing the account. But remember, the action is for the 11th of July. Just want to give you guys sufficient notice in order to participate in this action. So yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Great. Thank you, Philippa. And just again, this is another action of marking your calendar so that we can concentrate all of our actions sort of on one day to make this bigger impact. So that one is for July 11th for those of you who are in the UK and have a bank account through Barclays. So thirdly, for our regional action, we're continuing our US action from last week from FASNA, Friends of Sabeel North America, to tell Congress that Netanyahu is not welcome. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, plans to address the US Congress on July 24th, which is in just over a month. So we have a month left to continue to fill out this petition or email template from FASNA, contacting our Congress people, letting them know that we are not welcoming Netanyahu into our Congress. I say we because I am also American. So read more about the planned visit from Netanyahu in the article that we'll share in the chat if you need more information, and also complete the action through the FASNA link. And we are repeating this action from last week, and we will continue to do so until this planned visit on July 24th. So this is one that you can continue to complete multiple times. There's no limit on how often you can fill out these forms and call and contact your representatives. So thank you, Philippa, also for sharing those in the chat. And for those of you who have just joined us, I mentioned at the beginning that due to the holiday of Eid al-Adha, we do not have a guest speaker today to address our topic of the week, which is Palestine refugees. So we're pointing you to resources on our Kumi Now website about the issue for education. And our meeting today is mainly just focusing on our actions, and then we'll have a time for community sharing and updates. So that's our US action. I would encourage you in the chat if you can mention if you've completed this once, twice, multiple times, drop in the chat once you're able to fill this out and send this email. And some in the chat are saying you need a UK postal code for the Barclays action, which Philippa is telling us is correct because it's a UK-based bank. So once again, this action will only apply to those of you who are UK residents and also have a Barclays bank account. Thank you, Linda, for letting us know you've shared. And for those of our friends in the UK, just generally, we encourage you to follow the work and the events of the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, which we will also put in the chat. So for our final action, zooming out a bit more globally again, we continue to share general links as a resource for you to contact and call your elected officials to continue to demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire. We are 8.5 months into this genocide, and these calls are still needed more than ever. So we encourage you to continue the work of calling and contacting your representatives through the links that we post available into the chat. Continue to be involved in your communities in any way that you can. And thank you for joining us today to go through some of these actions together in community.
Thank you.
So that sort of ends our formal presentation of our actions for today. And since we don't have a speaker, I would invite us to begin a time of any community sharing or discussion for maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. So those of you who've been with us throughout the year, we've sometimes done this in breakout rooms where if you're in different parts of the world, we were having the US friends share with each other things that they're doing, but we're just going to stay in one big group today. And really, this is just a time of what we can share, spread any news about updates occurring within your communities. So go ahead and raise your virtual hand if you have any updates that you would like to share about activism that you've been engaging in, or feel free to unmute yourself. You can also ask any questions about our actions at this time if those have come up as well. Yeah, and then, like I said, this will be a shorter meeting than usual today due to our lack of a speaker. But we also want to remember our Muslim brothers and sisters who are celebrating the holiday of Eid al-Adha during this time. So please raise your virtual hand or unmute yourself at this time if you'd like to share.
Can I say something? It's Dorothy in England.
Yes, thank you, Dorothy.
I think we should be looking, America's got a big problem when the voting comes up shortly between Trump and Biden, both of which are going to be catastrophic for Palestinians. Maybe our American colleagues could be reflecting on who there are other people putting up to vote for presidency. Maybe our American colleagues should be reflecting on, who else could be there, be voted for, it seems everything's, yeah, I'm just throwing it out as I'm sat here in my living room thinking we ought to think of somebody better to vote for. What do people think about that?
Thanks, Dorothy. Philippa?
I'm also from the UK, but I do just want to point out that people feel a lot of pressure to, vote blue no matter who, which is understandable, but in the case of Palestine, I'm not sure what major difference it would make in terms of the actions of the American state. However, like down ballot in terms of local elections, there's a lot of good work that can be done in, ensuring that positive representatives and people who are aware of the plight of the Palestinians are actually elected into power. And there's a lot of stuff that can be done locally that maybe won't be reflected in like the highest office. But yeah.
Thanks, Philippa, for that. Others who are engaged in any actions within your communities, you never know who else may be on this call if there are upcoming events that you know about that would be helpful to share with those in attendance.
I can add that the suggestion to focus on the down ballot candidates is really a good one. There is another presidential candidate, Jill Stein with the Green Party, but the problem is she only has a really small percentage of the vote, and So we're faced with a dilemma. If we vote for her, is it actually reinforcing Trump's candidacy? It's really a dilemma. I don't know. I mean, it's like, out of the frying pan into the fire. But the down ballot focus, I think, is a real positive suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. I do think that amplifying candidates like Jill Stein is important in the US context, but you're right, this is always the debate. Margaret, I believe your hand was raised next. Unmute, Margaret.
Thanks, thought I had done that. Thank you very much, Lily, for chairing us today, and greetings to everyone. Good as always to be here. I'm speaking from Glasgow in Scotland. We have, of course, an election, a general election coming up here in the United Kingdom. And some of us are fortunate enough to have an existing MP and one who is also running in the new vote, representing this part of Glasgow in Westminster, who has been prominent and dominant in her speeches and her actions to date. She's a sitting MP, and I think we can do something by encouraging those people who are voting in our constituencies to be aware of the situation of Palestine if they aren't already, and to maybe be more informed than they could be through us and through links that we can give to them. One can see from the press and other media here in Britain that there are a number of places already throughout the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland which have a focus in their constituencies on Israel-Palestine, and to encourage those who are doing that and to ask the questions that need to be asked if you're going to a hustings where all the candidates are going to be present, just to make sure that wherever we can, we're supporting and encouraging those who are speaking for Palestine. Just very briefly, a very important book by an author who will be known to many of you, Raja Shehadeh, a prize-winning Palestinian author, co-founder of the human rights organization Al-Haq. He makes his home in Ramallah, now city to which his family was exiled in 1948 from Jaffa. What does Israel fear from Palestine? Won the national, was a finalist in the National Book Award last year when the book came out. It's now available in paperback, published by Profile Books. I can put the details in the chat. And it's a slim book, but it is full of the kind of information that one needs. And I myself bought numerous copies of this, and I'm just handing it out to people to read. I carry a few with me all the time. And if there's an opportunity, pass it on. It's not expensive to purchase. That's Raja Shehadeh. What does Israel fear from Palestine? Very succinct and well-grounded. Couldn't be better grounded than in its facts than by this wonderful author. And I encourage people to read it and to encourage other people to read it. Thanks very much, Lily.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Margaret. I'm sure that many will take that advice. Okay, I believe Reverend Fahed, your hand is up.
Yes, my name is Fahed.
I'm a Palestinian American retired Presbyterian minister, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. The thing that I want to reflect about that every week your program helped me to be updated of what is going on. And on Thursday, I do the Bible study and I grow spiritually. Now, if I am a Palestinian American and I learn from you, I think we need to start being intentional to invite people to the Tuesday 11 o'clock for 1 hour. So in a volunteer system, unless we invite and send the link and do something, it will not happen. I think your program through social media and other, we must let it grow, because the more people know, the more we can change things. So I feel not everybody like Bible study, that's okay, but the Tuesday program to me is the best program to educate us when we are far from Palestine, don't know what is going on, to hear a live witness. So I would like to challenge myself and challenge each one of us. Imagine if each one of us will invite one person a month, what will happen? If we are 100, it will be 200, it will be 300. I think we must grow this program if we are going to influence others. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sure many of us admire your desire for this program to be grown and be shared. So yeah, I echo that call. Thank you, Fahed.
The last thing I wanted to say, we hosted Reverend Munder Isaac, and the Carter Center wanted 20 people, and I said, no, we need to go out to another place. They said, okay, recruit. So I went after Lutheran Presbyterians, and the Presbyterian came first. And imagine the minister said, how many people? I said 30, 40. We ended up with 100 people. People are hungry to learn. People have been following him on what you call it, social media. So at least 10 people came from Facebook. I would like to challenge Fasna to do a program in Atlanta, like a 1-day or 2-day conference. Thank you very much.
Great. Yes, if anyone else is in Atlanta, get in touch with Fahed and we can make this happen. IK, I think next, Lynn, your hand is raised.
Yes. Yeah. This is for UK people mainly. On the 8th of July, it's the Church of England General Synod meeting, and there's a fringe event which is going to be addressed by Father Fadi Diab. And it was really, if people know representatives from their diocese that are going to go to the General Synod to attend this fringe event, but I don't know how to, I've got a flyer, an e-flyer, but I don't know how to pass it on. So I don't know whether to put my, shall I put my email in the chat, and then people can ask me for the flyer if they know, if they're on a representative or they know anybody else that's a Church of England General Synod representative.
Yeah, if you'd like to share your email or
because Father Diab's going to talk about the West Bank particularly, and the problems there. So I think it'd be really interesting. Okay,
yeah,
I'll put.
You can do that, or if you even have a link to the webpage or the flyer that you can share.
No, I don't think so. I don't know whether Sabeel Kairos UK have got it on there, on our thing. I'll put my email on. That's fine.
Okay. Great, that's good to know. And Reverend Fadi is a good friend of Sabeel in general. He's done many of our services, so that's definitely a voice to listen to and to amplify. Maybe if someone who's techie can Google and see if they can find it online, maybe Philippa, if you can look and see if you can find it online for people, that would also be helpful. Otherwise, yes, email Lynn to get more information on that. Okay, Mathis, your hand is raised. I don't know if I've said that correctly.
No, it's all right. My name is Dutch. It's Matthijs. A few things on my mind. I'm based in Toronto, in Canada. We had a privilege last week to hear firsthand from a small group of people who have visited in Palestine. First of all, I wanted to highlight the value of church networks, because they are, I believe, they're still extremely valuable in building connections across across national borders and national media spheres. I find that experience very valuable, and I would encourage other countries to organize similarly. A number of church leaders together who are able to receive messages and share news about campaigns and actions. So the second thing is, well, this is still very tentative. There was a call from Pax Christi US a few months ago for a ceasefire. In Canada, we're now working to, in a way, copy or replicate that call, which makes it a bit different, because Canada is not a very impressive power. But still, what we find is, of course, that there are connections between the issues. Especially since the legacy of colonialism is so much stronger on the mind of Canadians than it is in the US. So essentially, I think that what I'm mostly hoping for is advice and suggestions on how the issues can be connected. And if there are people who have thoughts about that, I would love to hear from them. So I'll put an email in the chat. Or if there's people who want to speak up, I would be very interested. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah, if there is any responses from that, feel free to raise your hand or speak up. Or yeah, please share your email and connect with one another in this space. Thank you. David? Are you raising your hand? Okay, unmute, please.
Yes, I just wanted to let you know that I went to the West Bank at the end of May, beginning of June, with 5 seminarians, and we spent up to almost 2 weeks. We did not have difficulty with security or checkpoints. We were there in support of the Tent of Nations, the farm, 100-acre farm that's been under duress for quite some time. And the settler and IDF military people are continuing to try to cut off the farm from access, from the people, the family having access to the farm. And they recently was seen, we could see the trailer that was put on a road made by the settlers that parallels the border of the farm, the property. And it looks like it might be the first attempt to establish an outpost, a military outpost. If it becomes militarized, it's probably going to be just a matter of time before the farm is taken over. So it's a dire situation. The family is very welcoming of people coming and visiting, having international people there, as they have been. We had up to 20 people there 1 week, coming from different nations in Europe and the Americas. As people are there, they're much safer than they are by themselves. So there's a need for international presence. So if anyone has an interest in making the trip, I would encourage them to try to do so as soon as possible. We'd like to keep up the flow of people going to the West Bank and being in solidarity with the family that owns the farm.
Thank you so much, David. I must have just missed you because I was also at Tent of Nations, I think just after your group left. So it's good to hear that you were there with other groups as well. And I've
Yeah.
shared a link to the Tent of Nations website in the chat, so that you can read, anyone can read the updates of what's happening on the farm. And with the Nasser family, they are good friends and partners of Sabeel and of the Kumi project. And that's what all Palestinians are saying right now, is come now, come visit, come work, come use your and solidarity, come invest in tourism right now, especially in the West Bank. That's such a struggle. So thank you, David, for that encouragement. And Tent of Nations is a great place to come and to spend time if you have the means and the resources, or if you know of people who are interested to visit Palestine. Yeah.
They just need to be in contact with Dowd Nasser through the website.
Yep.
It gives the background and explains what the process is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lily.
In a Kumi session maybe about 2 months ago, I believe, also. So that's a resource available as well as hearing
Right.
from Dawood on this platform. Okay, Lynn, I see that your hands raised.
Yeah, it's just to add that Linda's thankfully put the flyer in the chat, and it says on it to reply by the 17th of June, which is yesterday, but that doesn't matter. You just contact the people on the flyer. Ignore the reply by date.
And is this for a local event or is this another online?
Oh no, that's the General Synod one with Fadi Dia.
Okay.
You don't have to abide by that reply by date. Just get in touch with the organisers.
Thank you.
And Linda's put the flyer in the chat. I sent it to Philippa as well, but yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Linda, you also were sharing about the documentary, the Where Olive Trees Weep documentary. I wonder if you would mind unmuting and sharing a bit about that. I also have it pulled up to share my screen because this is something that we want to promote as well.
Yes, I'm not sure how I heard of it first, but it's a very hard-hitting documentary about life in the West Bank particularly, and some things that I didn't know about the level, well, what actually happens in prisons and things like that. One of the main speakers, I can't remember her name, she talks very candidly, and I think I saw an interview with her, she's now out in America, so she's got more freedom to speak. But also at the moment, if you can join, you're supposed to give a donation, and you have 48 hours to view it, but if you need to go back, they say go back and just put a 0 in, or you can put whatever you can afford. And I had an email from them this morning saying that with the proceeds that people have put into this, they've already managed to plant 3 plantations with a lot of olive trees in Palestine. So they're using the money that people are donating directly to go back into Palestine. But they've got 21 days starting last week, I think it is, where every evening, 7 o'clock British time, I'm not sure everybody's time, they're doing live discussions. And those are also recorded, so you can go back and listen. I heard the first one before I'd seen the film, and that was with the main person. I can't remember her name, sorry. So it is really hard-hitting. I've seen a few things, and most of them are hard-hitting. Some of them are not quite so good. This is really, really brilliant. And it has a wide variety of people talking, including Gabor Mate, who talks about trauma. It's very much from a trauma point of view as well. It's very much recommended, and also watch the extra bits that you get as part of that.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely feel inspired to watch it after that. So, and I think too, things like this media, film, documentary format can be such a good touch point to share with people, to educate them and get them invested in Palestine. So thank you for that. And we've shared the link to that website in the chat, I believe also. Randy, would you like to unmute and give us an update on Leanne and what's happening with the Nasser family there, if you're there still?
Sure. As many of you know, Leanne Nasser, a 23-year-old, 24-year-old now from Birzeit University, was rearrested on April 6th, taken from her home in the early morning hours and taken across the border into Israel and imprisoned in Damon prison near Haifa. She's being held under a 4-month sentence of administrative detention. And the family is very concerned because, of course, the conditions in the prisons have deteriorated greatly for Palestinian prisoners since October 7th. Currently, there are efforts being made to try to ask people to contact their elected officials, specifically here in the United States, contacting the State Department, but certainly also your members of Congress, senators, and representatives. Similarly, in the UK, there have been efforts to, including Fadi Diab speaking with the Archbishop, to Justin Welby, to bring her case to the forefront. Bishop Welby has expressed concern over the situation, but I don't believe there's been any kind of concerted effort yet to communicate that to the Israeli military. Of course, Leanne, being a West Bank citizen, is being held on charges by the military, but we don't know what those charges are. She's had very little opportunity to speak with her lawyer, and I believe no opportunity to speak with her family. So that's the situation as I have it at this point.
Thanks, Randy. And Philippa has also just shared the link to the petition around this case of Leanne Nasser. So this can be a little moment of action time in the midst of our discussion. If you haven't yet signed this petition, please go do that. And thank you so much, Randy, for the work that you're doing to advocate for Leanne and her family.
And the important thing to remember is, Leanne is one individual. We're concerned about her. She's, as far as we know, the only Palestinian Christian who's being held in administrative detention. But in that sense, she's only a poster child for this action, because there are thousands of children as young as age 12 all the way up to adults of any age who are currently being held in administrative detention in Israel. Administrative detention, as opposed to a type of sentence that's offered after a trial, where people are incarcerated after being found guilty in a trial, is really sort of a proactive type of thing to try to keep people from doing things that the state views as subversive or problematic. And of course, we're not exactly sure what Leanne was supposed to be accused of. Certainly, there's been no trial in her situation, but this is the situation for literally thousands of people currently in the West Bank.
Yeah, very, very important to keep in mind. Thank you for that reminder. Please access this petition that's been shared in the chat and sign on if you're able, and let us know once you've done so. Okay, any other updates, concerns, comments from the community? Thanks, Hazel, for signing and sharing. Yeah, Linda.
Just to add one thing about the film Where Olive Trees Weep, because I wasn't thinking, but it also has Jewish voices also. So Ilan Pappé is a part of it as a very good Israeli pro-Palestinian, and also Gabor Mate also speaks about the fact that he was a Holocaust survivor and the fact that that doesn't give any excuse for what's happening. So as a rounded thing as well, it's a very good thing for people who might be less supportive of Palestinian issues.
Thank you. Doug, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
In case people aren't aware of the Stones Cry Out delegation, that we had a group of folks who went to the West Bank in March and then did advocacy work in Washington, D.C. We're doing another series of sessions via webinar this summer. Omar was interviewed yesterday, in fact. I will also add, and I can put my email in the chat if folks want to track down some of this. We'll be meeting in DC September 23rd to 27th, again, as a follow-up to the webinar series doing advocacy work. Father Fadi Diab from Ramallah will be also doing a Zoom interview with the Dean of St. Mark's Cathedral here in Seattle, which is where I'm based. It's the Episcopal Cathedral. On Sunday, June 30th at 10:10 West Coast time. People can listen into that. Just go to stmarks.org. And you can find information there. Interview with Father Fadi. Father Diab was in the Washington area and visited us at St. Mark's when he was here a year ago. So there's a pretty good relationship between the dean and Father Diab. Thanks, Lily.
Thanks, Doug. And if you want to share your email or share any links to the webinars or more information about the Stones Cry Out delegation and information, I have one link to a post from Fosna that has more information that I've just put in the chat if anyone's interested. But yeah, Doug, if you have more resources as well, please.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone has updates on Shadi Khoury. I think maybe Samia is with us. I don't know whether or not she would like to share or participate, but recently we had in the Wave of Prayer an update about Shadi Khoury, and that's all that we have from Sabeel at this time. So thank you for those of you who are continuing to ask and pray about them and their family.
I'll just toss it.
Lily, Shadi graduated luckily from high school, so he made it. And he got a visa today and he traveled. He traveled with his father. They're going abroad, so for a vacation until his 9th of September, he still has another court session. So we hope that will end his saga. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us an update. And we'll keep in mind September 9th as the next date of his court. Okay, anything else as we begin to wrap up our time? Thank you to everyone who has shared resources and actions and updates. I think it's good to hear the ways that we're all involved in advocating for specific people that we know within Palestine. Anything final? Feel free to raise your hand or unmute.
I believe Randy, you had your hand you'd unmuted before, but then there was a bit of an echo. So if you still want to speak, there's times now.
We have a question in the chat about visiting and being allowed to stay in Palestine. And Ben, I know, who was here recently, is saying that a lot of people have been speaking out publicly, sharing on social media or setting them to private when they go through. I can speak to the fact that there are many delegations that Seville has hosted, even so far in 2024. Groups are able to come. Some are coming through Tel Aviv, through Ben Gurion, and some are coming through Amman and then crossing the bridge. But yeah, I think, again, just the call from here is to come and see, to come visit. It's important to do that and come, make these connections. And I know many of you have been here to visit also. So thank you for those of you who are asking and sharing information about your experiences of visiting as well. So yeah, if that's it, and there are no many more updates to share, I want to thank you all again for joining us today. Thanks for coming together to do a little bit of a different session than usual. We thank you for your flexibility and your commitment to showing up in this space. A link to a video of this gathering and all the links that were shared today will be available on our website and YouTube channel in the coming days and will be shared in the next newsletter. You can subscribe to Kumi Now on YouTube and subscribe to our newsletter to make sure that you receive all of these updates. Next week, we will be addressing the issue of militarization in Israel, and we will have a guest to be announced next week for that. And then the following week will be our midway point through the year, so we will be taking a break and a time off for them. But until then, thank you for being with us. Thanks for your continued work and advocacy. And we look forward to gathering with you all next week. Take care, everyone.